She said she needed space, said I was emotionally unavailable. Meanwhile, she was having dinner in hotel rooms with her boss, while I was working overtime to pay for the life we built together. She walked out with a smile, and 6 months later, she came back with a suitcase. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 45 years old, and I used to believe that if you gave someone everything, your time, your trust, your loyalty, they'd stay. Turns out some people will take all of that and still walk away the moment it suits them. We were married for 17 years, not the fairy tale kind of marriage, just real. We had a daughter, Chloe, a mortgage, a routine. I worked in logistics, warehouse operations for a distribution company. She worked in marketing. She dressed sharp, spoke well, had ambition. Rachel was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone pay attention without raising her voice. When we were younger, I thought that was power. Now I know it was performance. We met in college, started dating junior year. She liked that I was calm. I liked that she had fire. Back then, I believed we balanced each other out. Now I realize I was just the grounding wire for her storms. For the first 10 years, things were solid. We had ups and downs, sure, job changes, her postpartum depression after Chloe, money stress here and there, but nothing we couldn't ride out. I wasn't the romantic type, but I was consistent, reliable, the guy who never missed a payment or a birthday. Somewhere around year 12, I started noticing the cracks. Small things at first. She became restless, wanted more me time, started going out with coworkers after work, said she was reconnecting with herself. I didn't think much of it. Honestly, I thought maybe she was bored with routine, like most people get. I figured she'd work through it and come back to center. That's what marriage is, right? Weathering the phases, but the phases didn't end. She got a promotion, team lead in her department, and suddenly she had a reason to be gone even more. Business trips, networking events, weekend strategy sessions. At first, I was proud of her. I told my friends my wife was moving up. I even bragged about her success at a company picnic. But then the stories stopped matching up. She'd say she was in Dallas, but the bank statement said Chicago. She'd tell me she was staying in a Marriott with colleagues, but I'd find a charge from a boutique hotel that only had king suites. One night I checked our shared calendar. She'd marked herself at conference, but her Instagram had a blurry photo of a wine glass on a rooftop that sure as hell wasn't a conference center. And the worst part? I still didn't confront her. I made excuses. Maybe she made a last-minute change. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Looking back now, I realize I wasn't afraid she was cheating. I was afraid to find out she was, because that would mean everything I built was a lie. It was our daughter, Chloe, who finally forced me to face it. She was 13 at the time and sharp. She had this old soul way about her, always watching, always absorbing things adults thought she wouldn't understand. One night she said it casually, like she was mentioning the weather. Mom's phone rang last night at like 1 a.m. She was in the bathroom whispering. I think it was a man. I didn't even know what to say. I froze, nodded, changed the subject. But after Chloe went to bed, I sat on the couch in the dark and just stared at the ceiling. That's when it hit me. My wife wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. I'd just been too tired or too hopeful and to see it. A week later, I confronted her. She'd just gotten home, perfume still fresh, hair too perfectly done for a client dinner. I asked her straight up, "Are you sleeping with Mark?" That was her boss. Tall, smug, married with 2 kids. The same guy she used to call inappropriate behind closed doors. The same guy who magically started showing up in her stories more and more. She paused for a beat. Not long, just long enough. Then she rolled her eyes and sighed. I knew you'd go there. God, Ethan, you're so insecure sometimes. That was her answer. Not a denial, not even a lie, just a deflection. And for the first time, I saw her for who she really was. She didn't care that I knew. She wasn't ashamed. She just didn't want the hassle of being confronted. 3 days later, she packed a bag and left. No big dramatic goodbye. No tears, just, I need to do what's right for me. I hope you understand. She kissed Chloe on the head, said she'd call later, and walked out the door like she was headed to the grocery store. And just like that, my marriage was over. The house was quiet after she left. Too quiet. At first, I thought it'd feel like a relief, like ripping off a bandage after months of slow bleeding. But what I felt was something else entirely. Not pain, not rage, just emptiness. The refrigerator hummed. The hallway echoed. Chloe's footsteps on the stairs suddenly seemed louder, sharper, like the house was too big for just the two of us. She didn't ask many questions. I think she already knew more than she let on. She sat on the couch next to me that first night and handed me a blanket. "Are you okay?" I lied. "I'm fine." She nodded like she didn't believe me, but appreciated the effort. The next few days were a blur. Friends texted, my brother called, a couple of guys from work invited me out for drinks. I ignored all of it. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want anyone's pity. Mostly, I didn't want to hear the one question I couldn't answer yet. What are you going to do now? I didn't know. I was still making dinner for 3 out of habit, still reaching for her shampoo in the shower, still waiting for her key in the door. Grief is weird like that. Even when someone leaves by choice, it still feels like death. And then, the anger came. Quiet at first, just under the surface, not yelling or punching walls. I've never been that kind of guy. More like this constant low hum, the kind that keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every lie, every moment you ignored your gut. I started noticing all the ways she had already detached. Long before she walked out, the way she stopped asking about my day, the way she started locking her phone, the way her laugh changed around certain people. I hated myself for missing the signs. But more than that, I hated how much power she still had over me, even after she was gone. So I started making changes. Not big ones, just small things. Things I could control. I deep cleaned the kitchen, took her mugs out of the cabinet and packed them away. Reorganized the closet, put Chloe's drawings on the fridge again, bought a new bedspread. It wasn't about erasing her. It was about reclaiming the space. The only room I couldn't touch was our bedroom. That door stayed closed for a while. 2 weeks in, Rachel called. It wasn't to check on Chloe. It wasn't to say sorry. She just wanted to touch base. "I hope you're doing okay. I think about you, you know. This isn't easy for me either." I kept my voice even. "You left. You made it easy for yourself." There was silence on the line, then a sigh. "Don't be cruel, Ethan. I'm just trying to stay civil." Civil. She cheated, lied, left, and now wanted civility. I didn't argue, just hung up, and that was the last time we spoke for over a month. Meanwhile, Chloe started asking more questions. "Is Mom living with Mark?" I didn't want to lie. "Yeah, as far as I know." She nodded slowly. "Do you still love her?" I thought about that for a long time. I loved who I thought she was, but I don't think I ever really knew her. That answer seemed to satisfy her, or maybe she just respected the truth more than any lie I could have given her. By the 3rd month, I'd lost 15 pounds. Not because I was trying, just from stress and a loss of appetite. But one Saturday morning, I looked in the mirror and saw something I hadn't seen in a while. A man I recognized. Tired eyes, gray starting to show in the beard, shoulders slouched from years of carrying too much, but still standing, still here. And that's when something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to let this break me. I didn't care if she moved on. I didn't care if Mark had more money or a newer car or some high-rise condo with a skyline view. I still had something she'd never get back. Not from me, not ever again. My peace. I started working out again. Not for revenge, not for looks. Just to feel something move inside me again. I ran in the mornings before work, lifted weights in the garage. Chloe started joking that I was going to turn into those old gym dads with protein shakes and playlists. It made her laugh, and that made it worth it. I changed my schedule, started eating better, took on more responsibility at work. I said yes to things I used to avoid. Bowling nights, poker games, even a weekend hiking trip with guys from the office. I didn't talk about Rachel, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't need to anymore. I was building a new life, and in that life, she was just someone I used to know. 6 months after Rachel left, she came back. No call, no warning, just standing on the front porch like nothing had happened, like she forgot her keys and expected me to laugh and open the door. She had a suitcase. Her eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying in the car. She was wearing a coat I didn't recognize. Probably new, probably expensive. But her face looked tired, worn out in a way I hadn't seen in years. I opened the door. She blinked a few times like she hadn't expected I'd actually answer. "Hey," she said, voice soft, cautious. I didn't say anything. She looked down at the suitcase, then back at me. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside and pulled the door closed behind me. She flinched, like the sound of it meant something. "Mark's going back to his wife," she said, barely above a whisper. "It's over." I nodded. "I figured." She swallowed. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. I made mistakes. I I walked away from the one person who actually loved me. I see that now." I looked her in the eyes. There was no venom, no raised voice, just the kind of clarity that comes after everything inside you has already broken and reformed. "Why are you really here?" "Because I miss us. I miss our life. I want to fix this." I took a deep breath. "There is no us anymore, Rachel." She stepped closer, eyes pleading. "Ethan, don't say that. We've been through too much." "You're right," I said. "We have. And that's exactly why I'm not going through it again." Her expression cracked. "So you're just going to throw away everything we had?" "You already did," I said calmly. "I'm just not picking it up for you anymore." She blinked fast like she was trying not to cry. "I thought maybe we could start over." I shook my head. "You can, just not with me." There was a long pause. She looked away, then back at me. "You'll regret this." I almost smiled, not out of smugness, but out of peace. "I already did, but not anymore." I turned around, opened the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. For good this time. Later that night, Chloe came home from a sleepover. She noticed right away. "She came by, didn't she?" "Yeah." "Did you let her in?" "No." She let out a breath and opened the fridge. "Good." She pulled out a soda, popped the tab, and leaned on the counter. "Do you still love her?" I paused. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because saying it out loud felt like crossing a finish line I'd been circling for too long. "I loved who I thought she was," I said, "but I think that version of her only existed in my head. And that's the hardest part, realizing you gave your heart to someone who never really showed you theirs." Chloe nodded like she understood more than she should at her age. "She told me Mark cheated on her with his assistant. That's why she left." I didn't react. "She thought I'd be happy to hear it," she added. But I wasn't. "You don't have to be happy someone got hurt," I said. "Even if they hurt you first." "Yeah, but it doesn't mean I want them back." We didn't talk about her again that night. Instead, we watched a dumb movie, made microwave popcorn, and sat in comfortable silence. And for the first time in months, the house didn't feel haunted. It felt like home. Over the next few weeks, Rachel kept trying. Texts, voicemails, one or two letters in the mail. They all said the same thing. She missed Chloe. She missed me. She was sorry. She didn't expect forgiveness, but hoped for it anyway. I didn't block her, but I didn't respond either. I let the messages pile up like unopened mail from an old life I no longer owed rent on. She eventually stopped showing up, and the silence she left behind this time felt right. Chloe didn't bring her up often, but I could see the questions flicker behind her eyes sometimes, especially when Mother's Day came around, or when other kids talked about their family traditions. One afternoon she asked me, "Do you think people can really change?" I thought about it. "Yeah," I said, "but not because someone tells them to. They have to want it for themselves, and it usually takes losing something they never thought they'd lose." She nodded slowly. "I hope she does." "Me too." Time passed. The kind of time that doesn't feel like much until one day you realize months have gone by and the air in the house is no longer heavy. Chloe flourished. She joined the debate team, started volunteering at the animal shelter, picked up photography. She didn't talk about her mom much, and I didn't push. Some things kids learn to carry on their own, but I could tell she was healing in her own way, stronger for it, maybe even wiser than she had any right to be at her age. We became a team, not in the cliche sitcom kind of way, but in the real life, pass me the groceries and tell me if this email sounds weird kind of way. I'd ask her about college. She'd ask me if I'd ever date again. I usually shrugged. I wasn't closed off to the idea. I just wasn't chasing it. For the first time in years, I was happy being alone. There was no shouting, no cold shoulders, no emotional tightrope. Just peace. I'd started running again. Not far, just enough to clear my head in the mornings. I cooked more. I actually learned how to make sourdough bread. Badly at first, but Chloe pretended to like it. One weekend, I finally cleaned out the last corner of the garage. Found boxes I hadn't touched since our wedding. Inside were photo albums, old cards, a framed picture of Rachel holding Chloe as a baby. I looked at it for a long time, not with anger, just memory. I thought about what she was like back then, how we used to laugh over cheap takeout, how we thought being broke together made us invincible. And I thought about how far we'd both come and how far apart we'd ended up. I put the frame face down in the box, closed the lid, and donated the rest. That same weekend, Chloe convinced me to go with her to the bookstore downtown. She said I needed a hobby that didn't involve laundry or spreadsheets. That's where I met Dana. She worked there part-time. Late 30s, sharp-witted, wore glasses and Converse. She made some offhand joke about the way I picked up 2 cookbooks and put them back like they owed me money. We talked about fiction, about bad coffee, about how bookstores feel like time capsules. She didn't ask me if I was single. I didn't tell her what I'd been through. We just talked. It felt easy, real, like breathing in fresh air after being underground for too long. I didn't ask for her number. She wrote it on a receipt and slid it across the counter. In case you ever want to learn how to actually bake, she said. We started texting, then met for coffee, then dinner. I told Chloe, she smirked. So she's the anti-Rachel? No, I said, she's just Dana. That's enough. She met Chloe a month later. They clicked instantly. Not forced, not weird, just 2 people finding comfort in the same calm energy. I came home one evening and found them laughing on the porch. Chloe holding an old Polaroid camera Dana had found at a thrift store. That image of the 2 of them together, laughing at something that had nothing to do with me, I don't think I'll ever forget it. That's when I knew I'd really let go. Not just of the pain, but of the version of myself who thought he had to hold on to pain just to prove it happened. One day I got a letter, handwritten, from Rachel. No perfume, no dramatic buildup, just a plain envelope and 5 lines written in the handwriting I'd once loved. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you and Chloe are doing well. I've started therapy. I'm learning who I really am. Thank you for being better to me than I was to you. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because the conversation ended a long time ago. Some people need to talk to move on. Some need silence. I'd already found my peace. She was just catching up. It's been 2 years since she left. Sometimes people still ask if she begged, if she proved herself, if she changed. Would you ever take her back? My answer is always the same. No. Not because I hate her. I don't. Not because she doesn't deserve a second chance at life. She does. But because I love myself more now than I ever did when I was with her. And you don't go back to someone who made you forget your own worth. That's not strength, that's survival. And eventually, survival becomes peace. Chloe's going to college next year. She's looking at psychology programs, says she wants to help people figure out who they are before the world tells them who to be. I told her that's the best reason I've ever heard. She smiled and said, I learn from the best. I don't cry much, but that one got me. We've come a long way. her and me. Not perfect, not without scars, but whole. And that's more than I ever thought we'd get back when Rachel walked out. If you'd told me 3 years ago that my wife would leave me for her boss, that I'd lose half of what I built, and still come out stronger on the other side, I would have laughed in your face. But here I am, not broken, not bitter, just a man who knows what peace feels like, and refuses to settle for anything less again. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 45 years old, and the day my wife walked out of our life was the day I walked back into mine.